Good, I think we're on. Good afternoon, YouTube. Must be the last day of the reorganisation. There is some progress towards finishing. If you've watched last night's live, you'll know that I had, or even the vlog from the previous night, I had three major things to do. One is storing of files. Second one was storing of chisels. Third one was storage of screwdrivers. So the files are now done. Let me just swivel that around. So the files are stored. There we go. So you've got steel, good for sharpening utility knives. So the files are stored. Just a series of PVC tubes screwed through. I cut them on some of them are previously used. There's a couple of different sizes, and I've cut them on a 15-degree slope so that this is not what I didn't use, so that there's kind of more support for the file lower down. I'm currently working on the storage screwdrivers. Now, I've made this unit a couple of days ago, but I didn't drill the top, and I will need to take it off in order to do it, but I want to make sure that I get it right. So I've been experimenting with kind of cardboard, and which just isn't strong enough. Like sort of really strong cardboard boxes are in use for other things. Hi Rob. I'm just saying how I'm hopefully on the last day of the reorganisation. I've stored files. So the files, which was the last but two things to do. So they're now stored over there. And I've even got a place, I made a tube so I can stick my Gorilla Pod in there. And I've still got to work on holder for chisels. Last night I did narrow down my chisel selection from, let's look, I've never got here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5 or 6 more. But these 7 cover the same range as the other 6, which are older ones. So I need to make something for storing those, which will probably go over here, but I may go on the back of this panel here. I quite like that. I might then bring a couple of chisels out for kind of rough use, because it's nice to have a chisel just to act as a scraper. So I'm currently working on, I think I might need to do a little bit of rejig of the camera if I can get in. I've got obstruction in front of me. Let's just take that off here. Let's pop that down there. So at the moment, I'm just taking this piece of scrap 18mm ply. I've mapped out a 1-inch grid and drilled some 4.5mm holes, and now I'm just going through. I kind of know roughly how I want the screwdrivers arranged, although the concern I have is because I've built that at an angle, the depth I've got, there might be a problem, but I'll sort that out when it happens. So at the moment I'm kind of, let's see if I can find somewhere to park that. Yeah, that will do. No, that's PVC. It's on the pipe. I'm doing it live, so don't be phased. So I'm just kind of working out which screwdrivers I want and where on here. I've already kind of getting the hole sizes right, kind of ranging them so that it's quite what I want. It's just a little bit tricky. So I think once I've kind of got hole sizes right, I might just slotted screwdrivers are always a bit of a problem with that kind of effect that it flares out. Yeah, so that's a 6mm shaft effectively. the flare takes it to 8.5. So I drill a 6mm hole and cut a slot, which is what I did for this big one. And I may rethink that. I did an 11mm hole and then filed it. I'll go for a 12mm hole. How will that sit on that? I might have to try that one again. And then there's awkward little things like tack lifters. So the tack lifter has always been a bit of a pain. Let's leave the awkward ones, let's do the easy ones. My precision torques, which I think are all the same size. 5mm, 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 a little bit of variation. So I'll use a 5.5mm. I've got 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Check. Yeah, 6mm. Looks nicely. What are you up to today, Rob? Nice weather up in Wales. The biggest one. Eight. Hi, Jake. 6, 5. No, 7. What was that one? 8. Alright, what I'm doing is labelling each of these. So I know. So I'm essentially making this a template. Probably won't use it as a drilling template, but I'll use it as just a size guide template. Yeah, half term's always a good time for that, isn't it? Doing a bit of spring cleaning. What's quite interesting is that I use more posi drive screws than I do slotted screws, yet I have more slotted screwdrivers, which I think is actually a reflection just on the number of variations in the size of slotted screws more than anything else. Fix that. 11.4. So if I put an 11.5 in, No, I don't think I do. I mean, they do. Yeah, they do wear, I suppose. And I've sent. Actually, no, I've not done too badly. This one probably could do being replaced. I mean, to be honest, actually, I mean, I think the truth of it is that most of the time I'm using bit drivers and cordless. So pretty much, that PZ2, either with this longer bit or with a short bit. Although with this particular bit driver, it's one of the ones with the ball bearings, so that it will catch. And quite a lot of the bits I've got don't have an indent for that. So I've gone to sort of using that one more often. Now, where am I going to stick this stubby? Attempt to stick the stubby right at the back. Yeah, let's stick the stubby there. Or there. That wasn't the one for the stubby, that was the one for the... which can't fit at the back, but 11.5 is right with a bit of filing. That's better. Alright, so that's 11.5 and file. 11.5, no, 11 and file. Oh, I think it's, yeah, I think because I use predominantly bits and bit drivers. Right, so that's 8.5, that's 6. Do I file? The midpoint was that 7. So let's stick a 7 through that. This is ply. I don't use a lot of MDF. That's interesting. Well, I'm tempted to get some MDF or maybe some melamine because I need to make one of the projects once I've got this reorganization finished. One of the projects that I want to make is a crosscut sled for my table saw, which is tucked under here. Although I do have some ply that's the right size left over from a project, I'm concerned that, like, for example, this piece, which you might not be able to tell, is not exactly flat. Well, this piece that I got out earlier, it's far from flat. You can see it maybe on this. You can see the black line there. That's the gap between that's not actually a factory edge. Right, this is the factory edge now. Yeah, this could 5mm bow just because it's been stored in a slightly damp shed and not stored flat. Right, so that's 7mm and just a bit of filing, a bit of pushing that fits through. What I may end up doing is kind of, I marked out a 1x1 grid on here, and I probably won't stick to that when I come to do on the proper one over there, because I think it's fine for these ones here, gives me room to get in, but actually these smaller handles, there's more space. So I'll probably stick to a horizontal grid. Right, I've got a couple of long Allen keys, kind of Allen wrenches. Don't need to measure those because they are, actually no, I should, because the shaft is slightly thicker. So that's 6 mil. That's 5 mil. So there's an extra mil compared to the piece itself. Now the question is, where do I want them? How do I want them? There's always that kind of query, I think, with something like Allen wrenches. Do I want them so they actually kind of fall through? You can quite see that there. Or do I want them so effectively they're up and easy to grab? And I quite like that. But I won't have space where they're being stored for that. So that's something I do need to bear in mind. The other thing I need to think about is, am I going to store my burnishes in there, in this, rather than having them so jewelry burnisher, but then over a bezel. No, I'm going to keep them in the box because environmentally in here it's not great. So keeping them in their box, it's just that little bit better for them. It's a little bit inconvenient, but it's not as if I've used them recently. I may even pop them away. Zip Electronics Lab. Hi, you don't need to call me sir. I guess now if you're one of my ex-students, you don't need to call me sir. So yeah, I still need to work on kind of horizontal spacing that way. Some of these thinner ones, they're too close together, but if they were further apart, it's just too wide, not good use of space. And the other thing I need to think about whether I'm going to store here is my needle, not my needle, well yeah, these aren't, they're not needle files, they're just small files. And I have in the past had them stored. Actually, in this board, slots here were slots for, so they went in like that, but all the way through. But I actually keep them in this tub now, and it's actually more useful, I think. Right, so I've still got my Allen wrenches and my snap-on screwdriver to sort out. Hi. Fans of India, international. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will be hopefully doing some electronic videos at some point. I haven't done enough in the last few years. I've got stacks of electronics components. So kind of over here, I've got Arduino, Raspberry Pis in the house. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all electronic components. That's components. That one's components. That one's components. The 9 trays up there, all components. The 2 tins here and here are components. I haven't worked out yet. I've got that's components as well. That's sorts of junk, including watch, fixing things. There's some of the Racco trays behind the camera. I haven't got a huge amount of test equipment. One of the things I really would love to get my hands on is an oscilloscope, but I haven't got room for a big CRT one. I'd like an LCD panel, but they're a bit expensive. I do have a frequency generator. That's kind of in storage. I'm not sure where I would put it. But yeah, I want to get back into the electronics. I've got just the cameras balanced on a 3D printer that I was given at Maker Central. So I want to get that up and running. 5. That's 5. I need a 6. So my plan is to hopefully get that Oops. Let's go to the bench. Luckily I'm working on a scrap board, so it just might not go down very far. Yeah, so let's just hit my scrap board down there, so that's not a problem, but that's a good fit. So that's a 4mm, so I need a 5mm. Got to be systematic, got to label this. I think templates isn't something that people use enough of. I certainly don't. It's often kind of a time-consuming thing. It's a CTC version, I think CTC, of an ANET A8. I think that's right. Does need a little bit of that's no good. It does need a little bit of work. It's Simon Harmon gave it to me. There's an issue apparently with the Z-axis. So I'm going to sort that out, hopefully. Right, that was 5.5mm. Jake, let's have a look. 13-year-old woodworker, limited space, any storage tips? Hi, James. First thing I would ask is, do you have actually got a dedicated working space, or are you kind of having to kind of work in your garden or wherever you can find space? Do you have a shed? If you have, that should do the job there. When I started out, this first thing is toolboxes. Yeah, just go to cheap, pound shops, dollar stores, car boot sales. Just get hold of toolboxes. Plastic ones, I think, are generally better than metal ones. Metal ones will last longer, but they're often in a state. And if you've got a shed, then yeah, there's lots and lots you can do. First thing you should do is go back through and watch. What was that? That was 6. That needs to be 6.5. I would say go back and have a look at one of my first videos, the long, tiny workshop tour. It's about 20 odd minutes. But I have spent the last, let's have a look, started in January, February, March, April, May. I was hoping to finish yesterday, but it just didn't happen. So I spent the last 5 months almost completely, I wouldn't say rebuilding, because the general structure in terms of where benches are hasn't changed. But pretty much apart from these two shelves and those two shelves, I've rebuilt everything else in here, and I've rejigged pretty much. Tools actually haven't moved, but everything else has pretty much changed or moved in some way. So I would suggest maybe go and have a look at that one, or wait a couple of days. Saying that, I'd like the views, don't get me wrong, but wait a couple of days, and I'm going to reshoot that with a detailed kind of tour, a new workshop tour for the Tinkerage. I mean, how big is your shed? That's the first question. This is 2 by. I should know these figures. I tell people enough these figures, but I keep forgetting it. It's about 2 meters by about 2.5 meters. But if I do it in feet, because most sheds seem to be nowadays measured in feet, I am making an assumption that you're in the UK. So that's 7 foot 2 inches that way. And let's have a look. 25. Yeah, yes, I know you're plus 8, so that's 103. 103 inches. So about 8 foot. 8'7". So essentially 7 by 8. Which, you know, there's a lot of 8 by 6 sheds out there. Stephen's 8 by 6 workshop is a really good channel to go and have a look at. He's rebuilding he's remodeling his house at the moment, so he's not putting much up. 7 by 5, okay, so you're a little bit smaller. Depends partly how much you want to cram in. I mean, I've got in here, I've got a computer, I've got electronics, I've got woodworking, I've got metalworking, I've got obviously a bunch of tools, I've got a scroll saw, I've got table saw, I've got a compressor, I've got a bandsaw, I've got a kitchen sink. So I've literally got everything. And so the number one thing is to use your imagination. Think about what you actually want to, what it is you're trying to build, you want to build. The sorts of things you want to make. Yeah, if you're making bigger things, then you might need more space available. If you tempted to move that down to there. Yeah, not liking that. Yeah, if you're if you're trying to make kind of coffee tables or bigger, 7 by 5 sheds, you're going to be limited. You're not going to be able to move anything around. So you're thinking kind of one bench. Partially about what equipment you have. Have you got the facility to put things underneath? The good thing about most sheds being wood is that you can easily adapt. So I mean, I use a lot of these bench tops are kitchen worktops. You can get them cheap offcuts from kind of home improvement stores. As Rob says, workbench, it's going to be your starting point. Workbenches don't have to have legs. They don't even need to be fixed permanently. You could have a workbench that can be maybe only sort of 6 inches wide with some strong hinges on, so it will flip up, give you more space. Use the roof. I'm only 5'8", and I wear my specs on my head a lot, and so I've got everything set in here. This is not a tall space. I can touch the ceiling with a bent hand like that, and my arm isn't even straight. If I walk through the door, this is literally a finger, half an inch above my head. So using that space, I've got a drawer built in over there that takes kind of small things. Scrounge, if you can, scrounge things like Raco trays. So things, good to car boot sales. So like that, the storage trays. But if you haven't got those, things like ice cream tubs, margarine tubs. If you ever look through some of my tips videos, there's a playlist. If you go to my channel and look at the playlist, there's a whole set of ones just on tips. So some of them are kind of working tips, some of them are storage tips. So I've actually got rid of them. I did have quite a lot of stuff stored in jars, and the jars lids were screwed to surfaces, and then you can put screws in them. It's apart from the cost, it costs you the cost of whatever's in it, but you probably use that anyway. Three screws. Don't use less than 3. And if plastic jars might be better, so if you get like peanut butter in plastic jars, obviously then if you drop it, worst is going to happen. It's going to split, and you're going to pick up a pile of screws or nails. Try not to collect too much stuff you don't need. It's one of my too many things really. It's like I find it useful sometimes. My last drill, I've still got my last drill. The one before that's gone, but the battery on this doesn't last anywhere near at all. So sometimes I kind of charge it up if I'm trying to do a lot of drilling and countersinking. I think isn't Aldi this weekend? I think Aldi have got their big DIY. Lidl's was last weekend. Lidl and Aldi, good stuff. I mean, my bandsaw, I'm going to do a review of this. I'm hopefully going to get it done tonight because they're on sale tomorrow. Aldi bandsaw. I've got the Work Zone. I've got the Work Zone compressor. I've got the Work Zone scroll saw. They're all made by Shepak. They're not fantastic compared to stuff costing £200, £300, £400 more, but they're good enough. They really, really are. So your tools don't need to be expensive. And there's all sorts of things you can do with kind of, so for example, how you use your workspace. A fixed vise is great, but if you also want a metal vise, put it on a block of wood with another piece underneath it, so you secure it in there. You change things. I spent 5 months reorganizing. Last 2 days I've been putting tools up, but I know that I will change some of this stuff around. I'm already not happy with the way I've secured spanners on the back of there. I've had a few drop off, so I need to change these screws for something maybe slightly different. So maybe hooks, and that'll make things easier. They're likely to fall off that way. So, be prepared to change things. But there's plenty of cheap kind of sort of storage things. If you can get hold of, cheap MDF or cheap or scrounge, pallet wood, make containers that will stack on top of each other. You can make that different sizes. Stacking boxes. If you can afford them, the really useful boxes, that's the actual name. They're fantastic. They're very, very strong, but they're not the cheapest. They're not the most expensive, but they're not the cheapest. If you've got a lot of tools in their original blow molded cases, get rid of the cases. Put them up in the loft. Just find somewhere else to store them, because they take up more space than they need. So I've got all my power tools, not all of them, but most of my power tools are up on this shelf here. So, excuse my hand. So, mini router, circular saw, planer, die grinder with flex shaft, 1/4-inch router, but not 1/2-inch router, which is underneath because I don't use it very often. Jigsaw, mini circular saw, square sander, quarter sheet sander, belt sander, detail sander. really do want to get hold of a multi-tool. Things like plastic piping, drain pipe, like this. Really, really, really cheap. You can use it in lots of different ways. You can hot glue it together. You can glue things at angles. You can drill 2 large holes. The black stuff does tend to shatter more than the PVC stuff, so just watch that. 2 small holes, screw it in. You need the big holes to get your screwdriver through. So all my hammers, they're in tubes. I called my multi-tool. I've got another rotary tool over there. Just all in kind of essentially drain pipe. So using your imagination, can really help get things. Let's have a look. EDC channel, been watching for a while. It's been on top of my workspace. More time tidying, organising, and making. Yeah, I mean, I've spent 5 months tidying. I've made hardly anything in the last 5 months. But the Tinkerage had got to the point where I wasn't coming in here. I didn't want to come in here. If I did come in to try and make something, or it was generally to fix something, it was not a pleasant place to be. So it's taken me a while, but the idea of getting a space that I want to come into, where everything is at hand, it just, the space is too important to me to just leave it get really, really rubbish and not want to be in here. So it's just something I had to do. Yeah, I'm not the sort of person that tidies up after me as much as I should. Actually, because in my work environment I would, but when it's your own environment, particularly, you kind of go, oh, something's going to come out of the house, so it comes in here, just gets dumped on the side, and then something else has got to come out of the house, just comes in here, dumped on the side, on top of the previous thing. So that's always kind of just the way things happen. This becomes a dumping ground. So I'm trying to make this a much better place. My sheds are even worse state now, though, because I've taken stuff out of here and down there. I do need to de-junk. I've got far too much junk. What are you barking about? Come here. Come here. Come say hello. Dog's down there. Can you come say hello? You're being naughty. Yeah, you're being naughty. I heard the barking. So yeah, I mean, trying to get on top of things. Be able to encourage anyone, spend the time, get your workplace the way you want it to be, and then you'll enjoy being there. And that potentially can make all the difference. I need to think about those. Yeah, I mean, if you get, I'm very much about systems, particularly kind of in a professional environment. I was also very much about kind of getting systems in place. So if you get the right systems in place, and then when new things come in, you adapt those to your system, I think then everything becomes quicker, everything becomes easier, and the space becomes somewhere you want to be, and you can spend more time making. I could carry on for another 6 months reorganizing in here and not make anything. So that's why the other day I did set a deadline of yesterday. Didn't make that, but I'm hoping certainly by the end of today. Same problem with this living in the countryside. There's spiders all over the place. But 2 today. And it just makes it a much more pleasant place. Yeah, I won't go there. In the last comment, EDC channel. No problem, Jake. Hi, Dale. Yeah, almost there. This is essentially template. That's still on the wall, but I needed to make sure I don't want to mess this up. So I've marked out the same space. I've got some of them. I'm happy with the positioning of some, but I'm just essentially getting the drill sizing right. I've got one more screwdriver, which is my snap-on. It's actually my favorite screwdriver. It's a shame it doesn't fit more things. It's so strong. I wish I could afford more snap-on stuff, but it is expensive. And yeah, this is the one I'm using for that. that's not going to be fitting. Let's just see what the size of that is. All right, so that's 10.7. It's got a hex at the end, so I actually want to make use of that. So I'm going to stick try 10.5. I might be able to force it then for the rest. Yep, that fits nicely. So that's 10.5. Yeah, no problem, Jake. I mean, just the maker community. If you don't know about the maker community, find out about it. There are stacks and stacks of people. I'm assuming by the fact that you've used the phrase shed that you're probably British based. The maker community obviously is international. There are plenty of really, really helpful people in the YouTube maker community. If you're into Instagram and Facebook, there's places there as well. People will generally, like any community, there are a few people in the maker community that maybe have fun with winding people up, or maybe being a little bit rude, but they're few and far between. The majority of people will go out of their way to help anyone. To be honest, I've never found a community quite like it, and I'm glad I have found it. If you're young, you're starting out, there's plenty of people who will. There are people who, I don't always use the safest of practices. There are plenty of other people like that. Many people will sort of say, look, I'm just doing this the way I do it. It maybe not be the safest way. So be aware of that. Some of the things I will do on my table saw, I won't video because I know I will get comments about how dangerous it is. But I was using kind of 18-inch Bodkin table saw in my mid-20s, without guards, without all sorts of things, because that's the way things were then. And I learned how to keep myself safe in the process. But it certainly doesn't look safe on film or video. So you have to be really careful about kind of who you look for examples. There are some really good videos out there. If you're learning how to use things like table saws, routers, they are dangerous pieces of kit. So always stay within your comfort zone. At the edge of it, you want to be in the edge of it. You don't want to do things that you're so uncomfortable with that you might hurt yourself, and don't be complacent. But there are plenty of people who will offer advice and support. There's some really good people out there, some really great parts of the community. So keep learning, keep asking, and don't just take one person's thing for it. I've got some good storage ideas. So somebody commented on one of my videos yesterday. I've kind of squeezing 10 pounds of stuff into a 5 pound bag, and that's what I've got. I came from a garage into this space when we moved house, and I've gained more stuff since. So it's the way, because I do so many different things. I love the term maker. I do woodwork, I do metal work, I want to do more metal work. I do electronics, I do jewelry, I fix things. I'm getting into 3D printing. I've just been given some welders, so I don't limit myself in any way, and that means I've got lots of stuff, and it's difficult to find a place for it. But there are masses of good people out and about in the community who will help anyone at whatever stage they are. Just keep asking. Keep asking, keep trying different things. I've got this spider that keeps coming back. He's an interesting little spider. Had a huge one, if you can see him there. There he is. A tiny little one. He can go out in the sun. There we go. And he's got going straight back across the patio, back in here. One of the problems with living out in the countryside, that's more so than many other places, is the amount of things. Right. Now, apart from my countersink bits, which a bit holder, which I don't really want to store in there. So I think I'm almost there. But then I might make a little holder for those to go. Yeah, I'm going to make a holder for those rather than putting those in this block. But I think about little kind of organizational things. Hi, Dan. It's kind of, you have to grab things. I like having things together. I like stubby screwdrivers. I like having stubby screwdrivers in the same place. So I've got a few kind of things to sort of tweak and do. Yeah, I'm going to move that one over there. So next stage will be to get this off the wall, which you can't quite see. Oh, am I back again? Yeah.